These are some people that somehow survived insane freak accidents. Starting with Julianne Kopke, someone who could be described as not the luckiest person on Earth, but at the same time, pretty insanely lucky. You'll see what I mean. When Julianne Kopke boarded the plane with her family and a few other passengers, at first the flight was going pretty well, until she was hit by a thunderstorm that shredded her plane to pieces. But, I mean, before that, it was going well. Julianne's seat was ripped from the plane, and Julianne got the lucky opportunity to go skydiving without a parachute. I'm almost jealous. Almost. And guess what? She somehow survived the fall, which probably happened because her seat acted as sort of a parachute when hitting the tree branches at the bottom. So, luckily, she only broke like one or two bones and had some small scratches on her arms and legs. Yeah, it pays to invest in a seatbelt. Even though she survived the fall, she was very much traumatized by the experience. Oh, and stuck in the jungle with nothing but a bag of candy and her own will to survive. But since she most likely wasn't planning on dying in the jungle, she walked for 11 days until she found a bunch of vloggers who thought they could probably get some views by filming the crash site. And just like that, she was safe. Turns out Julianne was pretty lucky since she only got some minor injuries from the accident. But people like Michael Cassidy cannot say the same. Also, wait, if you made it to this point in the video, please subscribe. Michael got to experience one of the most insane motorcycle crashes in all of human history. Not to spoil it, but remember the time you fell off your bike as a child? Well, multiply that by like 3.6. Yup, that's how bad it was. So, Michael was just riding his motorcycle around the city like normal when he randomly lost control over his back wheel. That's when he knew he was going to crash.
I was in the US
So, in order
recently
to
and
prevent
couldn't.
being turned into a human pancake by the incoming trucks, he looked around for some grass to crash into. And lucky for him, he was able to spot some. But unfortunately for him, that's also where his luck ends. Because what Michael didn't see was the fire hydrant that was hiding just behind a car that he passed. So when he crashed into it, he was just freaking chucked into the air. And when he dropped back down, he landed on the same fire hydrant. That's just mildly unfortunate. Now, here's where things get interesting, because when he woke up shortly after the crash, he was lying face down, but his legs were facing straight up. Turns out that the hydrant split his pelvis in two, which in most cases will just absolutely kill you. The fact that he survived is a miracle. The doctors were able to fully fix him up, and just after a single month, he was able to walk again. W. Next up, in 2008, a woman named Stacy Perez was just driving down the road in Texas, and things were going well for her. Apart from the semi truck that absolutely demolished her car when it ran a red light, she did turn out surprisingly well, just had some small scratches and some dizziness. But things got a tad scarier when she turned around to check on her 9-year-old son, Jordan. What she saw was her son's head dangling above his shoulders. It was like all the bones in his neck were completely gone. Turns out her son had been internally decapitated. Internal decapitation isn't like when your head gets chopped off with an axe. In this case, your skull gets separated from your spine. So, obviously, getting your head snapped off like it's some kind of spaghetti noodle is very deadly, and only 0.1% of people that experience this actually survive it. Most of them end up paralyzed. The doctor that treated him said that this was the first patient with this condition that actually survived. And not only did he survive, he actually somehow fully recovered. After tons of surgeries and medications, he started getting better quicker than anyone expected. Even being able to walk again, doctors called him a 1 in a billion case. With that kind of luck, he should really go to the casino. Although, now that I think about it, I probably shouldn't encourage that. Anyway, next up, we got Phineas Gage. Wounds to the head can be very dangerous. Even the smallest scratch to the brain can leave you looking like Stephen Hawking, or just dead. And that's exactly what made Phineas Gage such a rare case, since this man had a metal rod go straight through his skull. Phineas was just a regular guy working for the local railroad company. His job was to place and detonate explosives to make room for new railroads. And it was all going well until one day in 1848. Because when he placed the explosives, he grabbed a tool called a tamping iron, which is just a long, pokey stick. While he was poking the ground around him to toughen it up, he hit a rock, which caused a spark to ignite the TNT that he had just placed. Then the shock from the TNT made the metal rod shoot backwards straight into Phineas's skull, like a Call of Duty kill cam. It entered right below his chin and shot up straight to the top of his skull, ending up more than 80 feet behind him, covered in blood and bits of his brain. What's crazy about this is that Phineas didn't drop dead on the spot. He barely even became unconscious. But when he woke up, he started throwing up with an insane amount of force, which caused bits of his brain to fall out. After that, his friends collected his bits of brain and they took him to a local doctor who was somehow able to patch up this newly made tunnel between his chin and the top of his head. But something about the accident changed Phineas entirely. Getting shot through the head turned this man into your average Call of Duty player, because he almost immediately started calling people slurs. I'm not even joking. That's what made doctors believe that parts of her brain have different functions. Turns out his frontal lobe had been damaged, which changed his personality a ton. He was never the same after the metal rod went straight through his skull. What a surprise. You know what? I think he should have used a VPN, specifically from Private Internet Access, who have sponsored this video. They're offering an insane 83% off deal, which is literally just $2.03 every month, along with the first 4 months just being completely free. But what even is a VPN? Using the internet without a VPN is like leaving your wallet, keys, and passport on the floor in a mall and walking away. All it takes is for one person to swoop in and steal all your information. A VPN hides your IP and safeguards your internet connection through an encrypted tunnel. So, like hiring bodyguards to protect your wallet and keys and passport. Private Internet Access is the world's most transparent VPN provider. They have over 30 million downloads, and it's been proven in court on multiple occasions that they never record or log any user data. And that's only one benefit of using a VPN. If you've ever tried to watch a movie or show but couldn't because it was blocked in your region, well, Private Internet Access can fix that. Using their VPN, you can switch your location to any one of 91 countries or any of the 50 US states, which will give you access to any TV show or movie that was previously blocked. I use this VPN a ton to switch my location with streaming services. I was in the US recently and couldn't watch The Office on Netflix because it isn't available there. So I just booted up Private Internet Access, switched my location to Canada, and 5 seconds later, I was able to watch The Office. Private Internet Access is available on all platforms and can be used to protect an unlimited amount of devices. Click on my link in the description and go do it. Thanks to Private Internet Access for the sponsor. This next dude is probably the luckiest person to ever live. Or unluckiest, depending on how you look at it. Roy Sullivan worked as a park ranger in Virginia from the 1930s to the 1980s. But in April 1942, while he was hiding from a storm in a fire tower, lightning struck the tower several times because it just had no lightning rod. The strike caught on fire, which made Roy leave the tower as fast as he could. But the lightning was just waiting to spawn camp him, because he was struck by lightning right after leaving the tower. So 9 out of 10 people in the US can survive being struck by lightning, but that's only if you're struck by lightning once. But it can't happen much more than once, right? Well, as it turns out, it can. In 1969, Roy was just driving his truck when he was again struck by lightning. This time it knocked him unconscious and set his head on fire. And the worst part is that the truck just didn't stop and it brought him closer to a giant cliff. I'm assuming he didn't go off the cliff though because he lived. The year after that, Roy was struck again while in the woods. And 2 years after that, he was hit again. All those lightning strikes sparked Roy to be pretty paranoid of his luck. And he was right to think so. He started taking a bucket of water with him like a Minecraft player, just in case his head would catch on fire again. And as it turns out, that wasn't totally for nothing. Because while he was peacefully fishing on a lake, he was struck by lightning again, and you guessed it, his hair caught on fire. In total, Roy was struck by lightning 7 times, including a time when the strike left him paralyzed for a bit in the forest, right as a bear approached him. It must have been scary for him because he couldn't do anything, but luckily for him, the bear just left after stealing all of his fish. It's a complete miracle how he never got any serious injuries from the times he was struck, because a woman who was hit only 3 times got some serious side effects like chronic pain, PTSD, damage to the brain, and a giant list of others. The odds of getting struck by lightning 7 times are kind of high. To be specific, they're 4.15 in 100 nonillion. That's 1 with 31 zeros. The cool thing is that he now holds the title for the most times struck by lightning, and I hope for his sake that no one's going to beat that record. My guy had serious beef with that lightning, and it managed to find him every time. The craziest ones on the list, and it'll definitely leave you feeling a little uneasy. On April 26, 2003, a man called Aaron Ralston was going on a solo hike in the Blue John Canyon in Utah. And at first, things were going really well for Aaron. But while going through a narrow canyon, a large boulder fell down and trapped his right hand against the canyon wall. He was now totally stuck, and he had no way of getting any help from anyone. He was stuck there for days, recording video messages for his family and eating the little food that he had left. At one point, he ran out of water and started drinking his own, yeah. But after 5 full days and being very close to dying from dehydration, Aaron decided that he wanted to get out of there. He started cutting his own arm using a dull multi-tool. It took him hours, and the pain was so severe that he almost fainted several times while doing it. Because you have to remember that during a normal amputation, people are more drugged up than your average Hollywood actor, so they don't feel anything. Aaron had none of that, or any tools that were good for the job. After he cut all the skin, he was kind of disappointed when he realized that his rusty knife couldn't cut through the bone. I mean, at that point, you might as well just start chewing. But here's where things get really freaky. He broke his own bones to escape. That, oh my god. Jesus, he broke his own bones to escape. And yep, he was finally free, but he still had to escape from there. And he did that by chucking himself down a 65-foot cliff and hiking 7 miles to find other hikers. When he was found, they rescued him using a helicopter and he was finally taken care of. He went through a decent amount of trauma. Good for him though. He lived. All right, next up, we got probably the most hardcore x-ray in history. On August 15th, 2003, a construction worker called Roy Hunt was just working on a project like he normally did. He was instructed to drill a simple hole in the wood above his head while standing on a tall ladder. He didn't think much of it since he'd done it so many times, but this time would leave him traumatized and permanently disabled. While he was drilling, he pushed a little too hard in the drill, which caused the ladder below him to fall backwards. Ron was trained, and he knew what to do in this scenario. He got into position and rolled away like a ninja while dodging the drill. Nah, I'm just kidding. He fell on his head and the drill shot straight through his skull. When he fell, the 16-inch drill went directly through his eyes and out the back of his skull. But by some insane miracle, the drill only gently pushed his brains to the side, which spared him from brain damage. Doctors were planning on cutting the drill where they could, but they gave up on that and just decided to unscrew it directly from his brain. It took Ron a little under a month to recover from the accident, and he somehow fully recovered. Like, what? This man had a drill go straight through his brain, and he survived. Thanks to Private Internet Access VPN for sponsoring this video, and don't forget to check out the link in the description. Anyway, YouTube thinks that you'll like this video next, so click it. And if you made it to the end, subscribe.